And moving on to global news, US President Donald Trump has reiterated that US is in charge of Venezuela. This is 2 days after the seizure of the deposed President Nicolás Maduro from Venezuela. Now, Trump's Secretary of State Marco Rubio suggested that the US may not take a day-to-day role in governing Venezuela. In an interview with CBS, Rubio said that the US would continue to enforce an oil quarantine that was already in place on sanctioned tankers before Maduro was removed from power early on Saturday. Now, in fact, use that leverage as a means to press policy changes in Venezuela. That's essentially what the strategy behind US move as of now stands.
This leverage we are using and we intend to use. We started using already. You can see where they are running out of storage capacity. In a few weeks, they're going to have to start pumping oil unless they make changes.
Trump vowed to run Venezuela over half a dozen times at a news conference in Florida. It not only sparked concerns among some Democrats, but also drew unease from parts of his own Republican coalition, including an America First base that is opposed to foreign intervention anywhere. Rubio dismissed such criticism, saying that Trump's intent has been misunderstood by a foreign policy establishment that was fixated on West Asia. Rubio also suggested that the US would give Maduro's subordinate, who is now in charge, time to govern.
We are going to give people an opportunity to address those challenges and those problems. Until they address it, they will continue to face this oil quarantine. They will continue to face pressure from the United States. We will continue to target drug boats if they try to run towards the United States.
US actions in Venezuela have evoked reactions globally. And that's where our question also stems from. The European Union, in particular, in a statement said that the principles of international law must be upheld in Venezuela and the will of the country's people must be respected. EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, in a statement supported by 26 of the 27 EU nations, urged the principles of international law and the UN Charter be upheld. Now, the joint statement called for restraint from all sides to ensure a peaceful solution. Criticism from EU was possibly muffled for fear of attracting Trump's displeasure when his support for Ukraine is still considered vital. Now, the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also focused on what might happen next. Now, is the EU engaging in a double standard when it comes to Venezuela if you compare it to the way they have reacted to Russia's actions in Ukraine? To discuss this further, we have two guests with us. We have James J. Marlowe, a foreign affairs and defense analyst from London, and I'm also going to be joined by Joachim Bitterlich, the former European diplomatic and security advisor to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl and the former German ambassador to NATO. Now, James Marlowe, let me please start with you first. Mr. Marlowe, while EU has repeatedly lambasted Russia, we've heard enough of that. It's been over nearly 4 years now, asking for strict punitive actions against Moscow time and again. It is in stark contrast to their recent reaction to the US military operation in Venezuela, which has been called a peaceful and democratic transition by the European Commission President herself, Ursula von der Leyen. Do you see a double standard here?
No, I don't see a double standard at all, Shivan. Not at all. What we saw actually just over 52 hours ago was a spectacular operation by the United States, which had been planned for many, many months. It's quite clear to see that. The actual intelligence that they managed to obtain was really amazing. To be able to pinpoint Maduro exactly where he goes, who he's with, whether he's with civilians or children, how many homes he has, what he eats, what he wears, etc. To be able to launch this operation to grab Maduro, who is wanted, as they say, on terrorism charges, on narcotic charges. 20% of the entire world cocaine exported comes from Venezuela. The United States are very, very concerned about this. Plus, as well, if you actually look at the figures inside of Venezuela over the last couple of years, 250%, as I look down, 250% in the last 2 years, the country has gone up in inflation. It is people are starving on the streets. They have nothing to eat. There's no medicine, etc. And there are people fleeing. Some of those people are fleeing into the United States, and therefore Donald Trump is not just saying, well, we need to stop the people coming into this country, meaning the United States, but at the same time, it's also let's help the Venezuelan people. Let's help them. Now, if you contrast that to Russia, Russia invaded an independent country. It got its independence in 1991. It launched a very fierce and brutal invasion. It's still trying to wipe Ukraine off the map. The United States are not trying to do that. After this happens, and of course the next few days are crucial because everyone is very, very tense as to what's going to take place. There could be an attempted coup inside Venezuela. We don't know really what's taking place. The Americans are very, very cautious. Of course, the president is saying we are running it, but they have installed the same regime. They've only taken out the leader. The regime is still there. And people are asking, well, why don't you bring in Delcy Rodriguez or Edmundo Gonzalez, who won the opposition leader and who won the election last time, which of course was rigged, because I think the Americans are very concerned about unstabilizing Venezuela as it is and it running into another Iraq or Afghanistan.
Understood. Mr. Maduro, now stay with me. While we've heard your point, you've made pertinent points. I want to now pass it over to Ambassador Bitterlich. Ambassador Bitterlich, do you agree with Mr. Marlow what he's saying? If today Russia decides that what Ukraine is doing and under Zelensky's watch is not right, do they also have the right to go in and capture Zelensky and his wife?
Well, we should not compare apple and pears. These are not comparable situations.
Understood.
Please don't forget, Putin has been failing, but Trump has been succeeding now. Putin, in the beginning of a war, has been trying, let's say, to catch Zelensky by a special command. And this command failed, was falling into a trap near Kiev at that time. But please, don't compare these two cases. They are uncomparable. When you look at the situation in Venezuela, Venezuela had an election, it seems, some time ago, where the opposition leader had been elected. Well, he was not able to take over, avoided by, let's say, by the Bolivar people. And therefore, I understand to a large extent what our British colleague has been saying, telling. And the reaction of the EU is not, let's call it, unanimous. Yesterday, Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, and the French President have been showing real understanding for what the Americans have been doing. And on the other hand, you see those who are, let's say, conservative insofar, the HR and the Commission President, by the way, who has no mandate in foreign policy. Don't forget it. And therefore, I look with, let's say, with distance to what, let's say, to these so-called official reactions from Brussels.
Understood.
On this is, let's say, they may be, let's say, formally, in the formal way, a violation of international law. Yes.
Understood. Ambassador Bitterlich, now let me cross. Yeah, let me cross over to Mr. Marlow. You know, along with that, even Spain has condemned what US has done as of now in Venezuela. But now, let me just change that perspective. Let's talk about Greenland. And that comes in under the Danish kingdom. Do you feel entire European Union will have a similar reaction if Trump decides to move on Greenland, which is under Denmark's control? The Danish Prime Minister, when it came to Greenland, had a stronger reaction saying US has no right to take over Greenland after renewed Trump threats. Mr. Marlow, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to pick up on the words of the ambassador, who's just actually rightly said that you cannot compare apples with pears or oranges and bananas, etc. And I think the same thing applies over here. You cannot really compare what has taken place in Venezuela to Greenland. As the ambassador just said, there was an election in 2015, there was an election in 2024. Pretty much everyone around the world recognized that Maduro, who is very, very unpopular, he's a brutal dictator. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of political prisoners have been tortured inside of his presence, is what is being reported as well. This
Mr. Marlow,
cannot be compared at all to
would
Greenland.
Would Trump be justified to go into Greenland? Let's talk about Greenland at this point.
I'm hesitating
Yeah.
because, of course, there is not going to be, in my view, there is not going to be a similar type of tactic. You're not going to see American warships off the coast of Greenland, and then all of a sudden on a Saturday night, a Friday night, you're going to see commandos launching themselves into Greenland. I just cannot see that happening. What is likely to take place is some negotiations. But you know what? I think the United States have much on their plate before that happens as well. They've got an issue with Cuba. They've got an issue with Colombia. They've got this issue with immigrants inside of their own country.
Yes.
They're trying to build up their economy as well. And also, all eyes are on Venezuela right now. They've also got a big issue with very far left-wing socialist.
We've been discussing Venezuela. We've been discussing Venezuela. Mr. Marlow, I'll apologize. I'm having to butt in a little more this time. We're really short of time. Ambassador Bitterlake, Mr. Marlow, thanks so much for joining us here. You've kept these completely incomparable topics, so I see your point of view. There will be more to discuss. Would love to have you on the broadcast for a longer discussion at another time. Thank you so much to both our guests.
Thank you.